Vietnam's slowly becoming the next Asian economic miracle. Over the past 2 decades, its economy as measured by the gross domestic product grew astoundingly from 39 billion US dollars in the year 2000 to over 433 billion dollars by 2023. Only a few countries historically have shown quite a growth in just a small amount of time. The huge economic growth is then pointing towards higher for Vietnam, one that may possibly enable Vietnam to reach the heights of Japan. Japan, of course, is a league of its own. Its economy is worth more than $4 trillion, and it's one of the most advanced countries in the entire world. However, we should not forget that Japan had a war-wrecked economy. Just after the Second World War, the country was in dire need of help. Its cities were broken, food was minuscule, and its economy was badly hurt. This gives so much opportunity for Vietnam to do what Japan did. Well, in fact, it is possible to even surpass Japan. The opportunity today is much, much more than what Japan had back then. Vietnam is now living in an unprecedented modern era with advanced technology and never-ending innovation breakthroughs. However, what Vietnam needs to do is still quite daunting. They still need to establish a lot of reforms. They need to give way to a more competitive economy, have world-class companies, and become an export-oriented country. To understand where we're getting at, it's important to see just how Japan became an economic powerhouse and see whether Vietnam can emulate such success, or even better. The first concept to understand is Japan's economic success. One of the huge factors behind the country's growth is due to the government-industry cooperation. The government, particularly through the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, or MITI, actively regulated and guided industries, suggesting what to produce, setting ambitious goals, and mediating disputes. This approach allowed Japan to focus on high-value industries, promote exports, and transition from a war-torn economy to a global economic leader. The success of this model was evident in the rapid growth of Japanese industries, especially in sectors like automobiles and electronics. Now, Vietnam is quite similar to this, but there's a key distinction separating the two. The extent and nature of government intervention in Vietnam differ significantly from the Japanese model. While there is a level of state involvement in key industries, Vietnam's approach has been more about creating an enabling environment for business rather than direct coordination and guidance as seen in Japan. The second concept is the keiretsu system. Keiretsu were important as they were the ones facilitated by Japan's MITI to grow and expand. Keiretsu were originally zaibatsu, large conglomerates controlled by families. After the war, these were reorganized into keiretsu, a system of cross-shareholding among companies which fostered strong intercompany alliances. This structure enabled companies to stabilize their business operations as they could rely on a network of suppliers, customers, and financiers who were also stakeholders. For instance, Mitsubishi Keiretsu includes a diverse range of companies from automotive, Mitsubishi Motors, to electronics, Mitsubishi Electric, and even financial services, Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group. The strength of keiretsu lies in its ability to foster long-term relationships and cooperation among member companies. This is reflected in various aspects such as preferential trading agreements, mutual stockholdings, and shared technologies. Such arrangements not only reduce market competition but also enhance group loyalty, which can be crucial in times of economic downturns. Vietnam, however, is quite different. The country's business environment is distinct from Japan's post-war scenario. Vietnam's economy is characterized by a mix of state-owned enterprises, SOEs, private firms, and foreign entities. Adopting a keiretsu-like system in Vietnam could involve fostering strong networks of local companies. This could be achieved through policies that encourage cross-shareholding, long-term partnerships, and collaboration in technology and innovation. The third concept is export-led growth. The Japanese nation concentrated on producing high-quality, competitive products in sectors like automobiles and electronics, which were then exported to international markets. This approach not only boosted Japan's economic growth, but also established its reputation for manufacturing excellence. Like Japan, Vietnam has been increasingly focusing on exports, with key sectors including textiles, footwear, and electronics. But what they differ in, for now, is that Japan's success was due to its heavy investment in high-tech and high-value industries. In contrast, Vietnam's industrial sector is currently concentrated in lower-value sectors. For Vietnam to emulate Japan's trajectory, a shift towards more technologically advanced and higher-value industries is essential. This shift requires substantial investments in technology, research and development, and human capital. Now, it is important to understand that Vietnam does not necessarily need to emulate Japan's path. Vietnam can follow its own road to become an economic powerhouse. It might even be difficult to follow Japan at this point. That is because Japan lived in a different era than that of Vietnam. Moreover, it's also important to know that Japan had huge help from the United States. After the war, the United States played a significant role in Japan's post-war reconstruction and development. This assistance came in various forms, including economic aid, technological support, and market access. The U.S. provided substantial financial assistance through the Marshall Plan and other initiatives, which were instrumental in rebuilding Japan's economy. Furthermore, the U.S. helped in establishing a stable political environment, which was crucial for economic growth. Another facet is the military spending. Vietnam, right now, due to historical reasons and modern geopolitical challenges, has been spending quite a bit on defense. Japan, on the other hand, did not need to. That is because Japan was bound by its pacifist constitution. On top of that, they were also protected and guided by the US military, which further bolsters the need to spend less on defense. This means that Japan had an extra budget to put into its economy rather than defense. To see why this is very important, let's take a look at the data from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Japan has a military expenditure to GDP, which is the proportion of a nation's gross domestic product that is spent on its military. This metric is often used as an indicator of the degree to which a country prioritizes defense and military capabilities in relation to its overall economic output. From the 1960s to 2020, Japan's spending never rose to more than 1%. Vietnam, on the other hand, had spent quite strongly on its military. In 1990, it spent over 7.9% of its GDP. Even for the latest data available in 2018, the country spent 2.3%. These spendings impacted the overall economic outcomes for the two. But as we noted earlier, there are geopolitical challenges as well that Vietnam faces, whereas Japan had the US and its Pacific policy. That should not be an excuse. However, if Vietnam can lower its military spending, use the money to prioritize its economy, that would likely be better. Another key indicator that you need to know is gross capital formation. It is a critical economic indicator that reflects the amount of resources invested in either new or replacement physical assets, such as buildings, machinery, and equipment, within an economy during a given period, usually a year. This metric is vital for understanding the level of investment in the economy's productive capacity. This metric is promising for Vietnam. Vietnam's annual growth of gross capital formation has been averaging around 5 to 10%. That is at the same pace as what Japan has done from the 1970s to the early 1990s. The robust growth in gross capital formation in Vietnam suggests a similar pattern of economic dynamism. This is particularly evident in the country's increasing investments in infrastructure, technology, and human capital. Such investments are crucial for laying the groundwork for sustainable long-term growth and for moving up the value chain in global markets. Now, regardless of their differences, it is still important for Vietnam to follow key Japanese policies. This will ensure its chances of more economic success. In fact, it's also important for Vietnam to learn from Japan's mistakes. Its slow economy and depleting population are key characteristics that Vietnam needs to avoid. Now, it's important to understand that Vietnam is still going to need a lot of time and possibly momentum to actually grow as much as Japan in the near future. Its current economy, which is about $433 billion, will need to grow around 7.87% per year for the next 30 years if it wants to reach $4 trillion in GDP, which may be unlikely since GDP growth of nearly 8% for 30 years is rather difficult. But either way, if Vietnam continues its current growth trajectory between 5 to 7% annually, it is certain that Vietnam will eventually catch up and match that of Japan. But anyway, do let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.